brokenness and not wholeness, but to brokenness. And I think we both met very broken. Can I just paint the picture of when I first met you?
No.
Come on, real quick.
No.
I got to.
We all know.
I don't know, I asked for permission in front of everybody. So we both met at Southeastern University. We met on campus there. And we were there for Leadership Week. And somebody said same. We met for Leadership Week. And Jess was a little bit late because she was coming from KAA, Kids Across America. She was doing her thing, leading a summer camp. She was leading all these kids. And we had left her. Well, her boss left her, but we were kind of teamed up. Our two teams were together. And her boss started like crying. So I'm like, hey, what's going on? And she was like, I left one of my students at the school. So I'm like, all right, well, like, let's just turn around and go get her. Like, what's the big deal? And I had no clue that my life was about to change. But I was on a little rinky-dink white bus.
No, listen, I was mortified. It was like one of those, I don't even like public buses. I don't know. It was like big. And there
It was a big bus.
How many people was in there?
It was probably about like 35 to 40 people.
35 to 40 people that I've never met. Okay, and they just pull up and open the door, and I get on the bus, and everyone's like, "Hey!" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, just find my seat."
You know, and at that time I was trying to be all polite, so I was not sitting in a seat. We didn't have enough seats, so I was just sitting on the stairs, and I saw her approaching the bus. Hallelujah! Hold on, Lord, help me stay focused. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. And she had like a pink fire shirt on. She had like some pink. It doesn't matter. She was banging. The door of the bus opened up, and I could have shouted down, but I kept my composure. I was like, oh, hey, welcome to the bus. Wow. And then you know that, fellas, like that look that you know you're not supposed to look twice, but I was like, and she sat down, and the prettiest girl, the prettiest blue eyes, so like she carried presence, okay? She carried a presence about her. It wasn't just the look, but it was the way that she smiled, the way that she engaged people as she sat down. And I was like, oh, she bad. This might be it. This might be the one. But then country music came on, and she started belting it out. Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? Nah. I grew up on that R&B, so I was like, nah, maybe this is not it. But
we're in Texas. Y'all like country
lo and behold,
music?
I do get down with a little bit of country music now. You know what I'm saying? Things have changed. In my older age, things have changed. But that's when I met you, and I'm telling you, you better be attracted to someone, not just to like just the presence, but her look was what initially caught my eye, if I'm being 100% honest.
You were noticed.
So, but I was so broken that I couldn't look that much. You say, wait, what?
I said you were noticed.
I knew I was. Well, this is how I know okay, so we got done at the end of the night. Okay, I can't go in too much. We got to the end of the night, and all of like the other guy RAs, we all got together, and they were giving nicknames to like all the girls. I don't know why we just do this, fellas. But when they got to Jess, I was like, hold on, what? Making sure I know exactly what nickname. Every single guy was like, yo, she's so cute. Oh my gosh. Like, oh, did you see her? I'm like, she's decent. Hey, come on, let me give you some pointers. I was like, she's decent. I'm not going to be like, you're right. Oh, you guys let me know how she is more. Nah. But for the next couple months, every time she walked in a room, I just observed. I didn't talk to her.
He ignored me. Would be the better. Don't do
fellas,
that.
I hope you got your notes out. Because all the other guys were all over her. I'm like, nah.
They were not.
Nah. I'm going to just keep it in my notes on my phone. And I'm going to go back to my prayer closet after, like, God, if this is your will, let it be your will. I mean, I tried to pray that in. But, so that's a little bit of how we met.
Anyways.
Who was the first to call who?
Y'all, you took forever.
Okay.
I had to text him.
She texted me. She was like, I just felt like the Lord was, she saw me outside chapel. I just felt like God was saying something. Can we talk?
No, I did not say the Lord told me to text you. No, I did not.
I'm like, yeah.
No, I did not. Okay.
No, she didn't.
No, but you took too long to ask me. Well, you asked my number, and I said, no, you have to earn it. And then you took too long to earn it, so, okay.
First time I had ever been denied, I was like, wait, what? So I was like, hey, can I, because we had like plans to do something with a group of people. I was like, hey, can I like, you know what I'm saying, would it be possible if not to burden you at all, but, you know, can I have your number? And she was like, no. I was like, just kidding, I didn't want it anyway. Just kidding. All right, let's go.
Anyways, so about 4 months after we met, we started dating, finally. And we were a hot mess, right? It was just 17 times we broke up.
Oh,
I lost count.
In 3 years.
Yeah, guys, we did not make it
yeah.
to like the 3-month mark. We did not make it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know about the 3-month mark, if that's still a thing, but like, everyone's like, yeah, okay, so some history there. So we did not make it to the 3-month mark, but it was like every few weeks, he'd be like, oh, I want to be your friend. Oh, I want to be more than a friend. Okay, no, just friends. I don't know the Lord. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Okay.
It was on
and
me.
I allowed myself to stick around for that.
So can we just get to like a point really quick? Is that because I had so much baggage and never dealt with all of the issues, and I was so broken, I had no business being in a relationship. I was not ready. Hey, I was like what you hear in some of the songs. I was a nickel looking for a dime. I was like, oh, I want the best, I want the prettiest, most godly woman. But when I looked in the mirror, all I saw was someone that was weak in their faith. And I always thought I was handsome, so that never changed. But my soul was ugly. And so every time I would break up, I thought that I had to break up in order to get closer to God. I'm like, yo, you're too cute. I want to kiss you too much. Like, let me focus on the Lord. And it was so unhealthy. But I think one thing I just want to affirm, even in you, was the way that you stayed so steady. Even as you were working out your own baggage, you really stayed so steady where I wouldn't have gave me another chance. And so I just wanted to shout you out for that. And we were all good until she broke up with me.
Yeah. Well, I didn't break up with you because we weren't dating. We were.
Well, you really stopped talking.
So after 3 years, I just blocked him on everything and stopped talking to him. Without warning.
Fellas.
I was like, bye.
Have any of you ever been dumped and blocked? I was waking up at 3 a.m. Omarion was just playing as I got the icebox where my used to be. I was waking up like, God, I'm freaking how it was like the ugly cry. I'm like,
I started going on dates with another guy.
Yo. When I saw, where's he at? Where's he at? Like, let me be honest with you. There was a moment in that 3 months that she stopped talking to me where the guy that she was going on dates with came out of the library. He was like, yo, what's up, man? And where I came from before I got saved, it all came to the front of my mind and to my fist, and I was shaking. Only thing I wanted to do was jab him in his chest. And I was like, hey, man, what's up? Yeah, cool. And it was the most humbling season of my life. And I felt like during that time, God was like, she's your wife. So I was like, okay, perfect, I'm unblocked. And I'd call, and it's like, the number you have called is no longer. I'm like, crap, I'm still blocked. She blocked me on my phone. She blocked me on Facebook. She blocked me on Instagram. She blocked me on everything except for GroupMe. Praise the Lord for GroupMe. God, I thank you for GroupMe. So what I did was I slid into that GroupMe. Say, hey, we got a meeting tonight. We got a meeting. It was all of the RAs, and I was a graduate assistant. I was like, hey, we're going to have a meeting, and we're going to do it at my house. So she came. I didn't see her during the whole prayer moment. She was in the kitchen like.
Oh, I was so. Am I allowed to ticked? I was ticked.
Livid. Like, livid.
I was like, this man tried to pray over us? No.
She was tight. So talk to us a little bit about how you felt in that season.
No, it's funny now, obviously, but it was a super hard time where I had allowed my value to be defined. Like, the things that I needed healed, I expected him to do it. And then when he didn't, it was like, oh, I'm not, like, I'm not validated, right? And for me being such, like, I'm independent, I'm strong, like, I've had to do it myself just with everything, I was like, no, that would never be me. I would never define my value in a relationship. And here I did it for 3 years. And I let it go up, and I was good, and I let it go down, and I was sad, and I let it go up. And it was just this roller coaster of emotions that I had to heal from. And it really was. It was very emotional, and it was like one of those things where your heart is telling you that something's wrong, but your head wins, right? Because it's like, but he's so awesome. He's so good looking. When it's good, it's great. And so that's why I was like, you know what? I have to be done. And I have to heal myself. And if it's meant to be, like, the Lord will do a 180 in him, and it'll work out. Sometimes it don't work out, but that's for the better. And so it was a really hard time for me just to refocus on the Lord healing me and the Lord of who the Lord called me to be, and just saying yes to him in every single moment instead of spending every moment here.
Yeah.
So.
And in that same time, that was really my focus as well, was, wow, I really need to know who Jesus is. Mm-hmm. Like, I've been around him a lot. I've talked even about him, but I really, really need to know who he is, so that he can help me understand who I am. And that was, like, really, really important. So we're happy to say 7 years and some change married. Yeah. It's like, when I say it's a miracle, it is incredible.
When we brought us back together, we dated for 6 months, we're engaged for 4 months, and married for 7 years. We did that thing. We have the 3 cutest little human beings in the world. That is Elijah, Micah, and Judah.
Which one's which?
Elijah is holding the baby. Micah is the crazy teaser that looks just like Jared. Your twin. And then Judah is obviously the baby. He's our little 8-month-old, full of joy, our little rainbow baby.
Got you. So when we're talking about crazy love, where do you start? Where do you start in building relationships? Do you start with attraction? Do you start with this long list? Do you start with trial and error? We want to give you a couple suggestions of where to start for yourself. Yeah. And even if you're already in a relationship or a marriage, these things will help you to be able to grow in relationship, understand who God is and who you are. Before we go into it, I remember the moment where I did the dumbest thing, was like, hey, bring a list of all the people that you talked to or all the people you hooked up with and all this stuff, right? I don't suggest it, but I did that. I did do that. I did. And when I showed up and I walked up on the room, I'll never forget, I had like my scroll with me. And she had literally nothing in her hands. I'm like, so I was like, well, let's go ahead and roll this up. Don't need this. Because I was leading from all the wrong places. I was only going from like a natural stance. I was only going from like an earthly stance. I was literally letting culture kind of lead me in what I wanted to be godly relationship. And so I don't suggest that. Well, here's what we do suggest.
Jared was my first official boyfriend, y'all. Like, official.
I really set the tone.
Here's the thing, is like, if you've already done the things that we're about to talk about, I hope that you pay attention and revisit that. If you haven't, because like when I was in school, I was like, oh, I have it all together. But we never had like open relationship talk with anyone. We went to a Christian school and it was like, rain by spring. It was like everything was light and funny and jokey. And I'm like, what? Like, I am not there. And how do I get there? And no one took the time to like be real and honest. And so I hope like wherever you're at, if you're single, if you're dating, if you're married, like these things apply to you. And even if you've already like, yes, I've heard this talk a million times, maybe tonight is the right timing for you to hear something new and really apply it and revisit those things that you've already done. So we have 4 things that we want to hit on tonight. And the first one is pursuit of values. This is internal and external, okay? This is an internal pursuit of your values. So have you defined your values, what you want out of life, and have you defined your worth? And when I say you, I mean you and God together, right? Because if you don't define your values and your worth, someone else will define it for you. Someone else defined it for me, and it failed miserably. And I found myself like, how did I get here? That's not what I want, right? I went into, what are your values? I don't want to have a broken family. Done. That was me, right? Because I came from a broken house, but I had no values or things that I was looking for or things that I wanted out of my life to get me to this place where I get to the end of my life. I'm like, I didn't have a broken family because we valued this and we did this together. There was no plan of action to get me to that goal. And it was just kind of like, cool. So that just means I'm not getting a divorce no matter what. And like, why would I not set myself up correctly to have a healthy marriage versus like, I'm just not getting divorced? It's just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and when you let somebody else define the value for you other than God, they become your Lord. And that's what happened to me. Was I had a good day if I talked to her on the phone. Yeah. If we were in a rough spot, it was a bad day. She was like the Lord of my life. And so the encouragement today is nobody else gets that seat. Nobody else gets to be the Lord of your life. Not somebody that's cute, not somebody that paints a good picture of what the future will be. Only you and God can really, and he really just reveals the value to you, but it only comes, he is the source of all of your value. He's the source of all of your worth. If you don't make him and keep him Lord, somebody else will become your Lord.
Right. I loved the first question during the, social minute, 60. It was like, what's one word that your friends describe you as? And I think that's so important because if you have a list of things that you want to be known for, that other person should compliment and encourage that, right? They shouldn't take that away from you or feel like you have to hide that part of you. But if you haven't made that list, then how do you know if that person is encouraging that part of you, right? And so think about characteristics that you want in another person. Do you value honesty? Do you, maybe not as much as the next person, right? Some people are like, I want honesty, the blunt truth, whatever. Some people are like, I really would like it in kind words. And it's okay to have different perceptions. Sure. And so that's what's you can't make the list and be like, I like honesty. Okay, but how do you like honesty? Do you like someone who's self-motivated? Do you really respect maybe someone who's a handyman? Is that something that you want on your list? It's not these superficial.
Missed that value.
That's not on my list, y'all. It's okay. There are people called to that.
Hello.
Do you love someone who walks in and they're the center of attention, the party? Are you attracted to that kind of thing? Do you love someone who's just maybe quieter but still has the authority? Things like that you're like, okay, what are these things that I really want in a person? And then you can start looking for someone. Or when you meet someone, like you said, they're so attractive, but they really don't encourage this part of me, so I don't that earns a conversation of how do you feel like this, right?
A bad attitude makes you ugly real quick. Real quick. A bad attitude and an unhealthy lifestyle, you're not as cute as you think you are. Mm-hmm. And that's just the reality. I think look for things like faithfulness, timeliness. Oh, God, I'm like, oh, God, forgive me. No, but in all seriousness, those things are important.
Do they keep their word?
How do they talk to their mom? How do they treat their friends? How do they present themselves? Are they put together? Are they kept? Are they always just rocking sweats and never put together, never present? How do they talk to people? Are they kind with their words? Do they gossip to you? Because they're going to gossip about you. So all those things are really, really important to think about.
And some of this may be cliche, right? Oh yeah, I've heard this 100 times. But of course I want all of these good things on my list. Absolutely, right? But your list should not be 100 things long. That is not real. You need to meet with God and be okay, what values, right? So there's characteristics, but what values? Because you're not expecting perfection, right? They're not going to have it all together when you meet them. But if they have matching values as you that you can see them working towards, that's what you're looking at. Do they value ministry if you're going to be a pastor? Do they value a woman in ministry if you're going to be a pastor? Things like that, real life conversations like that. There's you need to see what your life wants to be, what you want your life to be regardless of this person that maybe you're already with, and see if that aligns. And see if that is God ordained. We'll get to that later. But on that list, you need to have deal breakers. That's what this list is. It's not a list of 100 things I want. It's what are my deal breakers. I know Eddie sent us this thing. Who was it? Jimmy?
Yeah, Jimmy and Irene.
Jimmy and Irene. And they said, when you make your list, you say, I would rather be alone than have someone that doesn't do this.
Someone that be lying. Someone that don't shower. Someone that don't smile.
Right?
Someone that...
I would.
We keep going. There are deal breakers that are really important. Really important. Don't love the Lord.
Then you want to make sure that your deal breakers are healthy, right? That goes back to the internal values. Are you setting values out of brokenness from an unhealthy church background, from an unhealthy family background, right? Wow. You have to pay attention. You can't just say, oh, I'm all good. Right? Because none of us are all good. We're all growing. And so if you are not actively pursuing a better you, if you are not actively trying to become more like God, who is love, You cannot love yourself and you cannot love someone else. You have to be actively pursuing the values that God has put on your life, and you have to actively pursue becoming whole and knowing love, right? It's just, you have to define those deal breakers and just making sure that you're coming at it from a healthy place.
Yeah, I love that too, because it's not 50-50, it's wholeness.
Yeah.
It's 100. I want to make sure if I enter into a relationship, I'm entering the relationship with wholeness. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean I'm perfect.
Right.
That doesn't mean I don't have my flaws. It means that I've entered through the blood of Jesus and I'm actively pursuing the person of Jesus to become more like him, so that I'm not a nickel looking for a dime.
Yeah. It was like, what did I say to you yesterday? I said, if you walked in a room and saw you, would you want to date you?
I'm like, on Mondays, 30 days has September, April, June, and November.
On Fridays between the hours of 1 to 2 p.m.
That's so
At 8 a.m. when I'm in my
real.
prayer
I think
closet.
I'm
not up early. I'm not a morning person, so don't let that fool you.
Not at all. I think what I realized about you was that you were so steady, and you always loved me. And at the end of all things, really after I got unblocked, I realized, like, wow, I've never seen anybody that exemplifies the love of Jesus in that way. That's who I'm going to spend my life with. I'm going to spend my life with someone that looks like him, sounds like him, forgives like him. Yeah. That keeps me even to this day, because we're both very passionate people. But at the same time, I can sometimes get so caught up in what's God saying, what's he doing next, and I forget the steadiness. And so we're not the same. We're very opposite, actually, but through him, it really, really works well. So make sure those values are being pursued, that you're pursuing them, and that you see that person pursuing those values.
Number 2, if you know me at all, practical life skills. Okay. I love teaching life skills class. That was like my thing in Oaks College, like budgeting, how to clean, how to do your laundry, like basic stuff like that y'all should be learning. You don't have to have it all together. But how does this person, and relationships, even like your friends, right? The people that you surround yourself with, how does their room look? How does their house look? How does their car look? If you get in my car, please don't judge us by our car. We're messy people. But it's organized mess, okay? But can they do those things, right? Do they do things right away, or do they procrastinate with stuff? And procrastination might be so okay for like their homework that they are responsible for that affects their grade, but procrastination when it comes to laundry and dishes and sweeping and taking care of a house, do not cut it, okay? It's not, you're just gonna get frustrated, I promise you.
Well, because it flows into everything that you do.
Right.
Because then you're gonna be the guy or the girl that you just sit on the couch and waste your life. And you have somebody else that's next to you that's adventurous, that wants to go out and seize the day, but then they feel like they have to put that on the back burner for you. And so you have to know these things are very, very important. Not that you're going to be the same, but it's very, very important that you know the type of person that you're getting in relationship with, or the type of person you already are in relationship.
Right.
Some of y'all in the room are like, yeah, shoot, I should have checked into that. And that's okay. Like, we're all growing. Having a Christian relationship is the best relationship on earth, because we go from strength to strength, from glory to glory. If we're growing, it can be the best relationship on earth. It is. So.
Yeah, something that I say probably too often, okay? We're not advocating for breakups. We're advocating for the right relationship, okay? Sure. Let me just hear that.
Just say it. Just say it. Let it rip. Let it rip.
I'm trying to.
You probably only learned because of my.
No, it's not that intense. If they're not the person for you, it doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just doesn't mean that they're your person.
That's huge.
Okay? It's
That's
okay
so huge.
for this person to be great, but just something is off with you. they're just not your person. They're not bad. They're just meant for someone else, okay?
Right.
And don't rob that relationship, okay? So
right.
they may not be a bad person, but that's not a good enough reason to stay unless they're your person.
That's good.
Okay? So practical life skills also brings me to like practical conversations, right? I think sometimes when we're young and dating, at least us, it was like, yeah, I want to have a family and a job. And well, I also said, I will never marry a pastor or work at a church. So
Same.
Pastor Jared and we both work at Oaks Church, so that's great. But like, have these conversations, right? Like, do you want kids? How many kids do you want? We have some of our really good friends, not here, but they had been married like 7 years, and he was like, okay, I'm ready to have a kid. And she was like, I told you when we were dating that I didn't want kids. And they got married because he thought that she would change her mind. And she was like, no, right? And then he got upset with her, and she was like, but I told you. And so it was like they had the conversation, but they didn't really have the conversation. And they've worked it out, and they made it through their marriage, which I'm so proud. But like, those are the conversations, like when this person is telling you something, like believe them. Yep. Okay, and if it's not the answer that you want to hear, even if everything else is good, if that's the value, if that's the call, if the Lord has called you to be a mom, or the Lord has called you to be a dad, and this other person doesn't want kids, that is a red flag. Believe it, okay? They may not be a bad person, but they're not your person.
Ooh, that's a good line.
Things like,
that's a good line.
Things like, okay, one example was when we were like starting to get jobs, starting to have a family, right? He was like, man, I just want to make enough money so that you can like stay home and be with the kids. And I was like, yeah.
I didn't know.
I was like,
hey, I don't suggest starting the convo like that.
I love kids, but Jess Parks was meant to be in the workforce, okay, around adults. And it was just this assumption like, well, his mom stayed home with their kids. And so obviously, like as a female, you want to stay home with the kids. And it wasn't wrong. Like I so appreciated that he wanted to provide that for me. But then we had a conversation. I was like, no, I like working. Like, our kids will have to be in date. Like, we're going to, you know, and we had that conversation, but we never had that dating. And it was like, well, he saw life one way, and I saw life a different way, and did it match? And so just have those, like, I know it sounds so serious, but, like, if you're serious about this person, these practical conversations need to be had.
Shoot. I was shook.
Financial habits.
Yeah, just go to that.
I'm just gonna drop that out there. Okay. The next one is...
Hold on, can I say something about the financial habits? We got ready to get, we got ready to combine our bank accounts.
Look, I grew up poor, so I saved every penny I ever made.
We got ready to combine bank accounts. I'll never forget the day. It was right before we were married. We had been engaged for a couple weeks. And she was like, hey, yeah, it's about time now to, combine our bank accounts. Would that be okay with you? And I was like, shoot, I'll do you one better. Here's my only $40 that I got to my name. But, and I don't suggest...
He's not lying, y'all. I wish he was being like...
I know you wish I was. So she did what only an amazing fiance would do is she acquiesced in my checks because she was working in HR, and she basically just was like, hey, sign this paper. I was like, okay, cool. And it was to give a portion of my check.
Look, bro put his money into an account that he didn't have access
to it. Again, I don't suggest it, but I think it's really important that we didn't know how to have certain conversations when it got to that point. Now, if you're trying to get into a dating relationship, you don't need to be asking all those questions. But when you're serious and you want to take that dating relationship to the next level, please have those conversations. And fellas, just write a check. Don't just keep the $40 in there, write the check, hope it doesn't bounce, and then, no, I'm playing.
They don't know what checks are anymore.
I'm playing. No checks?
No checks. Okay, number 3 is person over potential.
Come on.
Yeah. How many times you're like, okay, I'm going to read this. I'm about to go off script. Okay.
Let's go.
You have to love the actual person, not the potential that you see that they could be, right? Because if they never realize that potential, do you still love who they are? It should be, this person is amazing. Our values match, we're doing great. And if they realize this and this and this, that's just a cherry on top. That's just extra blessing. That's just extra growth that we're going to put the work in together for. Because how many times you're like, that's when missionary dating, like, oh, if he comes to Jesus, then, I just think if we date or if we're friends, like, he'll come to Jesus. That is potential. There is no guarantee that he's going to be on fire for Jesus just because you brought him to church. He's coming to church for you. She's coming to church for you. Sorry, I always talk from the girl's perspective because I'm a female, so don't, take that both ways. You have to be honest about how this person stands up to your values and your deal breakers right when you say I do.
Can I say something about the person, too?
Yeah.
In our dating relationship, I have to actually like her as well. Everything is not like, God told me to be in this relationship. God whispered in my ear today and said, you're the one. No, it's I have to actually like her. We actually, have to go on dates and be friends. I have to actually be able to have, an articulate conversation. It's not just the whole time. It's we're not just praying the whole time we're together. We probably should have a lot of the time. But in all seriousness, I think sometimes we over-spiritualize this thing. Yeah. And my mom is hilarious. She's like, I can't stand it. You ain't courting. Don't be courting nobody. And what she's really saying is do you actually like to spend time with that person? Well, if you do, that's a telltale sign that maybe you need to pursue it a little bit further. If you can't stand being around that person, why are you trying to pursue it further? If the person is not nice to you, ladies, oh, come on. If you're the one that always has to text first or call first, he doesn't like you.
He ain't ready.
I'm sorry, he doesn't like you.
Said, period.
Not the way you like him. If you're the one, ladies, always making that first call, that first attempt, that first approach, and you're fighting for his affection, fight no longer.
Isn't that called I know I'm old, but don't be thirsty. Isn't it thirsty?
Thirsty. Just in the desert, just dry, coarse. Seriously, leave it alone. But fellas, on the flip side, stop looking for girls that are like your mom, that has to take care of us. Oh, well, you didn't remind me to do my homework. You're an adult. Oh yeah, but I just wanted to sit with you and your friends. No, you have no guy friends because you're making me your Lord now. You're separating yourself from every life-giving relationship that you could have because you just want to be in my face all the time. I'm telling you, fellas, if you want to be the best man for the girl that you're with right now or the potential in the future or whatever, and vice versa, just grow. Just grow right now. Take care of your person. Yeah. So I think we talk about the other person, but right. Take care of your person. Shoot, there was a time in college where I'm going to go sit at the pool by myself. I needed to just think about life. I was broken. I didn't know my mom and dad. I didn't have certain things. Because I was adopted, I was trying to find my birth parents, and I didn't realize how much it affected our relationship here. So guess what I had to do? Hey, I would love to hang out with you right now, but I'm going to just go to the pool and think. I'm going to write. Hey, guess what? I'm going to walk around campus, and I'm actually going to repent for what we did yesterday. Come on now. Nobody wants to get to these real deal things. We used to have chapel.
And we're over time. So.
I know you're trying to skip. We used to have chapel, both student leaders, but we were thinking, man, how can we kiss real quick? 6 minutes. How can we kiss real quick before this chapel starts? So we were rolling off campus, rolling into worship already started. We're rolling in, talking about what we're ready to receive from the Lord. It was nah, we had to receive from each other first. This is not the life we're called to. And I don't think that people actually have these conversations as if we're not tempted in every way. It's so important that we have these healthy, good conversations. If you have a hard time with your eyes, guys and girls, make a covenant with your eyes and work that out with the Lord. I know that in your dating relationship, you feel like maybe she or he can help you with that. I promise you, only God's going to be able to help you with your eyes. If you have an issue with what you look at, maybe it's going to change the way that you are in your dorm room. Maybe you got to sleep with the door open so that you're not looking at your phone 24/7. I'm so serious that all of the things that culture throws at, it fights for our affection and it seeks to kill love. And if you think for a moment, well, you just satisfied your craving for a minute and it's not going to actually grow up, or when I get married, I won't have the lust issue.
Right.
If I can just get married to her, like, I'll be good. No, you won't. It will just intensify and grow. So as you're thinking about the other person over their potential, look at yourself in the mirror and have an honest to God conversation. You know what? I'm not actually as faithful as I thought I was. You know what? When I talk to people, I make myself appear really holy, but I got holes all in me. Yeah. And once you get to that realization, that honesty with where you really are, then God can step in and start to do that work. And once he starts working, it could be a horrible 3 years of dating, but then in an instant, 6 months or whatever, he can restore everything. And so I just wanted to share that part.
Yeah, I think that just goes into like the boundaries conversation, right? That everyone has, like, and your boundaries should not be don't have sex, right? That there's so much more than, there's situational boundaries, like we're not going to be alone in a car together, right?
Amen.
There's things that you take precautionary so that you don't even get tempted to push a boundary. And if the other person is pressuring you to stretch your boundaries, that is a red flag. And when you're in it, you're like, but this person loves me. Like, it's okay, you know? And it's like, you know this stuff when you're like hearing it, you're like, well, duh, Jess, like, everyone knows that. But when you are in that moment, you've already crossed the boundary because now you've put yourself in a situation that's unhealthy. So don't even let yourself get there. And if that person is consistently pressing those boundaries and consistently pushing it and pushing it, you feel it in your gut, you need to remove yourself from that situation because you are worth so much more than that. They may not be a bad person. They're just not your person.
Ooh, and she was pressuring me so much, but I was like, girl, no,
gosh.
We can't go there.
Finally, number 4, purpose of relationships. The whole purpose of them.
Yeah, so I just love the purpose of relationships, like biblical relationships, right? Relationships are not for survival. Relationships are for dominion. It's very important when we think about Adam and Eve. And I know Adam was black because he had to be sleeping before his rib got taken. Because if I was awake, I did, I said it, my bad. No, but I think it was such a beautiful thing when God said, it's not right or not good for man to be alone. Let me bring a helpmate. And I think sometimes as fellows, we really think like we're sweet, as if we don't need help, and vice versa. When God established covenant, earthly covenant, it was to exercise dominion over everything. So over every animal, every creeping thing, everything on earth, we are to exercise dominion. Guess what? As Christians, in him, we are still called to exercise dominion. When we walk into a room, in a relationship, a godly relationship, we have to remember that we are a model. Yeah. It's not just what we say, it's who we are. And people will see it. If y'all see us bring our kids around the church, you know that we're wearing them out at home because the way we yoke them up now, it's like we are modeling. We were driving to work a couple weeks ago. And I've told a couple people this story. We were driving to work a couple weeks ago, and we always pray for our leaders right on that bridge, right there pulling in. And as we're praying, Micah, our middle one, is in the back, and he's like, so I'm like, boy, stop. Like, what are you doing? And Jess, kindly tapped me, hey, I think he's like trying to pray in the spirit. So I'm like, oh. He's been listening to mom and dad pray at the house. So we're modeling to him what life in Christ looks like. More than the words that I was praying in that moment, he went back to a moment that he saw us pressing in prayer at home. Right. So don't forget, if you're looking to get into a relationship of any sort, or you already are, and it's a godly one, you're a model for someone, whether it's a model of darkness or a model of light. Yeah. We would encourage you to be a model of light. And it is a big responsibility to think about, but it's probably one of the best things that you could ever do is to pursue someone and realize the influence that you have in relationship. It's really important.
Yeah, and I think what it's not, right? I think especially in the church, like, when are you gonna get married? Like, I don't know why it's so hard to be single for a long time, right? And the purpose of relationships, of romantic relationships, is not to just have a companion. It's not to fix the loneliness that you feel as a single person. It's not to meet expectations of your family. When are you gonna give me grandbabies? It's not to meet any of these needs. It's not just like, well, we've been dating for 3 years, so I guess the next step is marriage. It is not that. It is this, are we growing together? Have we met these values? Do we have dominion? Do we have purpose together? Is this from the Lord? And just like reminding you of what your purpose is in this relationship, and is that thriving? Not perfect, okay? No one's perfect. We're constantly growing. We've had some good old fights in our 7 years of marriage, okay? But is it thriving? Are you supporting each other? Are you encouraging each other in that calling? I think is just so important. And this is not in our notes, but something that I just want to say is like, in my opinion, one of the most detrimental thing to any relationship, friendship, family relationships, romantic relationships, is selfishness. There is a season for you to be selfish when you are defining these internal values. You all go through it. The teen years, you're just figuring it out. And those are your season. In your singleness, you are selfishly looking, but it's not a selfishness out of like, well, it's for me, right? It's like, it's a selfishness because you're looking internally. But as you get married and add someone to your life, you decrease. Not who you are, right? But you do have to say no to say yes to something, right? So if you are living at full capacity, but then you're trying to add this person, add this friendship, add this discipleship, mentee thing, you're saying no to something in your life to add them. And that's a choice that you are saying, I'm not going to be selfish in this area anymore because I love this person enough to give that up. And then you start adding little humans to that, and you decrease, and you serve more, and you decrease. If you are selfish, you are not ready for any type of relationship. You need to be ready to, the wrong type of selfishness, but if you're not ready to decrease yourself to serve someone and truly love them and give up some form, right? One of our friends, he was like, yeah, I'm going out with the guys. I'm like, isn't your girlfriend like waiting for you? Yeah, she'll wait. Selfish, right?
Will she? Oh, will she?
Will she? But she did.
Oh, snap.
So you can't let someone, okay? That wasn't us. It's not us. It's a friend. But that's what I'm saying. Like, he wasn't willing to give up his every night out for this person. Did he really love her? Okay, and so I just encourage you to just check yourself where you're at with your selfishness and say, like when we were having Elijah, our first one, you have the conversation like, are you ready to have a kid? Yes, I love babies. And then we would wake up at 10 a.m. on a Saturday, like, we ain't ready to have a kid. Like, honestly, like I enjoy sleeping into my mornings too much. Like, I'm too selfish to have another person to take care of. And that's okay, but don't go looking for a person to take care of. You know what I'm saying? Like, be honest with yourself with where you're at. If you are working on all of these things and healing all of these things, don't go looking for another person because you're bringing that brokenness, you're bringing that selfishness, and that is not how you want to start any relationship. Could you imagine if we had just waited on the right timing? If we had taken the 4 years of college and really took advantage of the leadership around us, took advantage of these kinds of talks, and took advantage of healing ourselves and then started dating?
Oh my gosh.
What? We could have done things so much differently, and it would have been so much healthier. And that's really our heart is please hear us. There are so many different angles that you can come at when you talk about love. But we just hope that y'all just have such a better and healthier experience than we did because you just deserve that. Your futures, your children deserve you to be in a healthy relationship. Your family, your grandchildren, y'all are leaving legacies as you match up with these people. What is your legacy to your great-grandchildren? Is it brokenness? Is it Or is it like, hey, yeah, they're not perfect, but they're growing, right? And they love Jesus and all of these things. Like, what do you want your grandchildren to say about you? And that starts now. That starts when you're single. If you're in a marriage right now, you're like, man, this does not reflect my marriage. Get on your knees together. Wow. Define those values together and start redefining that legacy that you have for your family. It is never too late. Never too late.
It's all about mutual submission.
Yeah.
I just want to end on this last story. It was a couple years before we moved here, and I was working just craziest hours. So I would see Elijah and Jess probably for 30 minutes on Thursdays, and then I was at the school until literally midnight. And I didn't realize that I left my home uncovered, and I didn't realize that I wasn't leading my family. And most importantly, I didn't realize that I wasn't mutually submitted to the Lord for my family and with my family, like the mutual submission piece. I came home one night from a conference, thousands of people, and I was all excited. I got a word. And the word was really about moving here. But I went and I told Jess, I'm like, I got this word. And she said, I've been waiting for God to tell you. What I didn't know is that for months, she was waking up at 6 a.m., going on the back porch, and just praying, feeling like, God, I don't know what to do about my husband. He's not leading me. He's not adding to. He's not submitted. He's selfish. And she was praying, never told me. She just was warring. That day, we just cried together and made a commitment to mutually submit to the Lord together. And from that point, and we had already been married, 3 years, 4 years? Had to be Elijah, whatever. And we made a decision to mutually submit, because mutual submission gives you the opportunity to know that person after the Spirit, not after the flesh. She was digging and tapping into the source. See, because as a husband, I'm not her source. As a wife, she's not my source. Your boyfriend, your girl, they're not your source. They're a resource. Yeah. But they're not the source. If you're unplugged from the source, you have no chance at being in a healthy relationship. And so pray that this helped you all today.